You're listening to the Better for America podcast, presented by Amac, the Association of Mature American Citizens.
Hello, everyone. I'm Rebecca Weber, and this is your Amac podcast, Better for America. On today's podcast, we have with us Fox News' very own Janice Dean. She has been part of the Fox News family for almost 2 decades and currently serves as the senior meteorologist for the Fox News channel. But before we jump into this important and revealing interview, one that you don't want to miss, let me share with you some background. Roughly 15 months ago, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo publicly declared that New York could not hold enough hospital beds if COVID-19 infection rates continued to increase. And so he directed nursing homes to allow COVID-positive patients to remain in those nursing homes or return to the nursing homes, even if they still tested positive on the day of discharge from the hospital. Meanwhile, as Cuomo sparred with Trump, offered up interviews about his book deal, accepted praise of his handling of the pandemic, thousands of patients were dying as a result of his directive. As Cuomo was writing a book boasting how wonderful he was, people were dying. Fast forward, we know that today, New York had a higher number of COVID-19 fatalities in elder care facilities when compared to dozens of other states. Amac recognized the problem caused by Governor Cuomo, and so last summer, we directed our members in New York to contact him to hold him accountable for this disastrous decision. Amac members flooded Governor Cuomo with almost 1,000 messages and emails demanding to know why he broke federal guidance and allowed COVID-19 infected patients to be discharged from hospitals into nursing homes and long-term care facilities. We all know the tragedy that occurred was a result of Cuomo's decision. With us now to share her story is Janice Dean. Now, prior to joining the Fox News channel, Fox and Friends, Janice worked at various networks in Ottawa, Canada, and in New York. She is a member of the American Meteorological, I never say that word right, Society, and was awarded the AMS Seal of Approval in 2009. Janice is also the author of multiple books, including the children's series Freddie and the Frogcaster, which teaches children about weather. Currently, Janice is the morning meteorologist for Fox and Friends weekdays from 6 to 9 a.m. And with that being said, I'm so pleased to welcome you, Janice Dean.
Oh, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Wonderful. Janice, all of us here at Amac, we were deeply saddened to hear about the passing of your in-laws due to COVID-19, and we do offer our condolences. And I want to thank you for joining Amac's podcast today. Over 2 million Americans aged 50 and above have joined our organization, and they, quite frankly, are furious at the way several Democrat leaders handled the COVID-19 pandemic in their states. So I want to speak with you about the nursing home crisis that emerged in the wake of COVID-19. Throughout the pandemic, Governor Andrew Cuomo has been referred to as the leading strategist of the COVID-19 crisis. Even from the start, he was pushing the narrative that he was keeping everyone safe, especially those who were the most vulnerable, including those in the elder care facilities. However, we know now today in nursing homes where the most vulnerable reside, those individuals were not protected and were exposed to high risk. Both of your in-laws passed from COVID-19 while they were being held in separate elder care facilities. Janice, could you tell us a little bit more about his emergency order? What did that directive look like? And why do you think or believe that this led to the passing of your in-laws?
Well, thank you for having me, and thank you for continuing to be a voice on this issue over a year later. March 25th was when that order came out, issued by Governor Andrew Cuomo. It was in place for 46 days here in New York State, and it basically was an order that put over 9,000 COVID-positive patients into nursing homes without us knowing. We never got word from the nursing home. My in-laws were in separate elder care facilities, actually. It wasn't very long after we put them in assisted living and nursing homes, respectively, that COVID happened. And of course, had we known that, there would have been a very different plan in place. briefly speaking on how we came to that decision, his dad had dementia, was, needing constant 24-hour care. His mom had issues walking, but her mind was, very active. She was, every day my husband would talk to her on the phone, but they were living in a 4-story walk up in Brooklyn that they had a hard time going up and down the stairs. And for years, we wanted to move them to a more accessible living situation, but they wouldn't have it. They lived in this place for over 50 years. It was rent controlled. They didn't want to take any money from our family or my sister-in-law. So it was, an ongoing situation that finally, after Sean spoke to his mom at great length about needing care 24 hours for both her and her husband, they agreed. And my husband, took her to different care facilities that would have both her and her husband, despite his dementia, in the same, living arrangement. Mickey, his dad, had a lot of health issues. So before he could go and join Dee in the assisted living residence near our home on Long Island, he had to be in rehab. So that was the situation. They were apart for the first time in close to 60 years. Wow. It was a really difficult situation. And, not long after that living arrangement was in place, COVID happened. And, we were in quarantine. We could not go see Mickey at all. We were trying to get regular updates on his progress, but we were in quarantine. We weren't able to leave our homes. And Sean was in regular contact with his mom. And then, one day we got a call saying his father wasn't feeling well. And 3 hours later, we get a call saying he was dead without any warning, no notice whatsoever. We didn't even know he died of COVID until we saw the death certificate. As for his mom, Sean had to call his mom and tell her that her husband of almost 60 years had passed away from COVID. She was heartbroken, to say the least. But we told her to hang on, and we would get through the quarantine, and then we would make, we would make different living arrangements. But at the time, we were afraid we couldn't go visit her. We were afraid to move her. She got sick 2 weeks later, was transported to the hospital where they diagnosed her with COVID, and she died a few days later.
Oh, yeah, that is such a tragedy, and it really is. It breaks my heart that there seems to be no accountability for that March 25th directive, and for people like you, and for other families that had no warning, had no chance for a backup plan. To me is just reckless and careless on Cuomo's part. Janice, I want to play a short video clip of Cuomo, which was actually part of an interview you had with Harris Faulkner on Fox News, where Cuomo was actually he sort of tap dances his way out of this terrible decision, effectively blaming others. Let's play that.
If you died in a nursing home, it's called a nursing home death. If you die in a hospital, it's called a hospital death. It doesn't say, where were you before? And if I'm a nursing home operator, I say, don't say that person died in my nursing home, because they didn't. They died in the hospital. And if the hospital did a better job, they wouldn't have died. So why do I get blamed for the death when it didn't happen in my nursing home? So it depends how you want to argue it.
So, now you have said that I've heard you say over and over, Janice, you're not a political person. And you've also said that you noticed that none of the important questions were being asked of the governor. You just mentioned on March 25th, this is 46 days, right? 46 days went by when he issued this order to put infected persons in nursing homes. And it seems to me that Cuomo is looking to place the blame on anyone else but himself for the consequences of his emergency order. Interestingly, the order has disappeared from the New York Health website, and in January, the New York Attorney General's office released a report stating that up to 50% of COVID nursing home deaths were not even reported. So how many more people passed away as a result of his directive? Now, Cuomo went even further as to investigate and clear himself of any wrongdoing. I don't know how one does that. So clearly, New York's governor, it seems to me anyway, that he might be in sort of damage control. But Janice, why do you think that Governor Cuomo is not being held accountable for this?
A good question. And I think, the fact that I am not a political person, this is a position I'm not used to being in. I'm used to reporting on storms instead of being part of one. But this governor has ruled with an iron fist, and he wants to run for a fourth term, and he's been protected by the media. If you look at the way this governor was treated in the very beginning of the pandemic, listen, even I was sort of fooled. He was doing his regular PowerPoint presentations every day and speaking in a very calm, matter-of-factly. It wasn't till, the March 25th order, and we lost my in-laws, and I was never seeing the questions being asked of him when he was going on all of these talk shows on all of the ABC channels, ABC, NBC, CBS, and then, of course, CNN with his brother, Chris Cuomo, on a regular basis. I wasn't seeing those questions about the nursing homes really ever. There was hardly any coverage of it. And I was seeing, I was doing my own investigative reporting, finding out about the March 25th order, why it was in place, why we didn't know about it, and then finding out that he wasn't counting those that died in the hospital, like my mother-in-law. My mother-in-law was diagnosed with COVID once she got to the hospital, and then she died in the hospital, but her number wasn't being counted. So that got my back up, and there were red flags there. So that's when I decided, it's probably important for me to be a voice since nobody else is holding him accountable. And he got away with it for so long. It wasn't until Tish James's report in January that, the floor started crumbling a little bit, there were leaks in the boat, so to speak. She was basically saying he wasn't being, very forthcoming when it came to the amount of deaths that happened in nursing homes in New York. So when that happened, I think the newspapers started to look at him a little bit more critically. Although I will tell you, he is still currently the governor of New York. He is still passing regulations and rules, and it's really frustrating to see, because not only is there the nursing home issue, but he has several other problems as well when it comes to his $5 million book. I think part of the reason why he covered up those numbers is because he was shopping his $5.1 million book about leadership that came out last summer.
Oh, yeah. I mean, those facts, they just sadden me, really, because, to lose people that you love is very hard, as we all know, but to lose someone close to you due to gross negligence on someone else's part, that's beyond heartbreaking. It's also must be infuriating. Cuomo makes $5 million on a book deal. They put out posters declaring how great he handled the pandemic. So it just must make your heart bleed when you hear those things and see how he's sort of strutting around acting like he saved New York from COVID. I, too, am a New Yorker. I live out on Long Island, and I, too, watched him most days and thought that his delivery and his updates were good in that calm and soothing voice. But little by little, we began to see that things were unraveling, and I don't think he was making the good decisions. And he seemed to like to spar with other people around him more than focusing on us New Yorkers. So now there is a federal investigation underway on Cuomo. Can you tell us the status of that investigation? Have you heard of any lawsuits in the civil courts against Governor Cuomo?
Right. So there is 4 investigations against this governor, not only with the nursing home issue, but also with him using state resources to write the book, the $5 million book of lies, that I believe should be in the true crime section instead of the memoir section. He's also under investigation for his friends and family COVID test, the VIP test he was giving to Chris Cuomo and his sister-in-law and his brother-in-law and his mom. And then I believe at least 100 friends and officials that he was giving out these COVID tests when nursing homes couldn't get a test to literally save lives. So he's under investigation for that using state resources. He's also under investigation for harassment of women in his administration and, women over the years that he's treated badly and harassed. So there's 4 current investigations underway. I've heard that the report from Tish James, from our Attorney General, is supposed to come out very soon. I think they said July, but listen, it's been over a year now, and we continue to wait. We continue to want accountability. And even though I'm not a political person, I'm not a dumb person, I know that if this governor was a Republican, I think that he would at least be out of office by now.
I agree with you. I couldn't agree with you more. And like you said earlier, it's not just the book that deal and people died, and this is serious stuff. So he ought to be held accountable. AMAC members really appreciate that you have been an advocate for seniors and a voice for the voiceless. And for that, Janice, we thank you. Our thoughts and prayers are with you. We stand with you in support of further investigation. So AMAC members are at the ready to put, because they feel it in their heart, especially our members here in New York. They've been reaching out to us. What can we do to make our voice heard? So we're going to make sure that our voice is heard here at AMAC. But Janice, I do have one final question. I want to talk a little bit about your extensive background on radio and television broadcasting. You are an inspiration to people like me. You had the incredible opportunity to write a children's book series called Freddie and the Frogcaster. And you are also a New York Times best-selling author of the book, I think it's Make Your Own Sunshine and Mostly Sunny. Could you tell us about what inspired you to create these great children's series and discuss what moved you to write these books and how people can get at them?
I appreciate that. Writing has been, I've been writing since I was a little girl, so it's a big dream of mine to be able to be a published author. I've been doing weather now for close to 2 decades here at Fox, almost 18 years. And I would go out to schools and see the enthusiasm from children when it came to weather and storms that had come through their neighborhood and how their neighbors helped them. And I just thought to myself, I thought, wouldn't it be great to write some books to tell kids how weather happens? And I did some research. There weren't a lot of books out there for budding young meteorologists, kidcasters, as I call them. So I thought, maybe I could do that. So I wrote the series, Freddie the Frogcaster, who's a frog who loves to forecast the weather. And he has his friends Sally Croker and Polly Woggins at the Frog News Network, where he likes to, spend his days after school to help the frogcasters prepare their weather forecast. And I did 5. I wrote 5 books and basically used great storylines to tell kids, explain to them why certain things happen. Why does a tornado form? What is a hurricane? What do you have to do to prepare for a big storm or a blizzard? So, I've gotten such great reception from the kids and parents and even teachers who use the books to help with their weather curriculum, which I love. And as for the memoir, Mostly Sunny, I came out with that a few years ago. An editor thought, wow, she looks like an interesting person. I wonder if she has a story behind her sunny disposition. And so that's why I wrote that. I talked about how I got into radio in the early days and how, a kid from Canada came to New York City with, just a suitcase and her Honda Civic and came to the big city with big dreams. I'm a living, breathing gal who is living that American dream. So I talk about that in that book. And then Make Your Own Sunshine is a book about other people, about people who spread kindness like sunshine and how it's important to do good things for others, how that's like spreading sunshine even when it's a cloudy day.
That's beautiful. And I know our listeners will want to read those books, buy those books for their grandchildren, for their children. I have a 3-year-old granddaughter, so I can't wait to get my hands on Freddie the Frogcaster. I think she's ready to learn about weather when she hears the thunder. What's that, Mimi? She says. So that's awesome. Well, Janice, I want to thank you for your courage and for speaking out because our members, it's important to them. We thank you. I'd like to also thank our sponsor today, Rosemark Advisors, for sponsoring today's show. Over the years, Rosemark has helped thousands of AMAC members make better financial decisions at every stage of life. Whether you're planning to retire soon or you're just beginning to save, Rosemark can help you put a great plan in place. And they offer a full range of services and products from life insurance to investment management. So definitely check them out. And when you do give them a call, just tell them that you heard it here on the podcast. Their number is 888 466-9875. Tell them you heard all about Rosemark right here. Folks, don't forget also, please like, follow, subscribe, and share this wherever you stream. And if you're not already an AMAC member, please visit our website at amac.us and join us now to help preserve the conservative values of our country. If you are a member, please tell your loved ones about us and encourage them to join the AMAC family. And to all of our listeners, thank you for tuning in today. Folks, if you have not already, one last thing, if you haven't already downloaded the AMAC News app, I urge you to do that. Download the app on your mobile phone. It's great. You can set it up to get notifications at any time, and we take no information, not even an email address. Thank you all, folks. Until next time, I'm Rebecca Weber. This is your AMAC podcast, Better for America, and we look forward to having you back with us again next time. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you for listening to the Better for America podcast. To learn more about AMAC and all it has to offer, visit us at www.amac.us.